Hi there, and welcome to the 5th episode of my unscripted Q&A video session. If you're not familiar with this kind of videos, this is not a project. You will not learn that much in this video. It is all about me answering Patreon questions, and I will also give a small status update on my channel, what is going on, where the channel is heading, and I hope we can have a little talk in the comment section below if you're interested. And yeah, with that being said, let's get started. First off, also, there's a lot of noise going on outside, ignore that. And second of all, as you might already have noticed, I will say a lot of and I will think about what I want to say. Like I said, it is unscripted, so please be aware of that. If you're not comfortable with that, check out one of my other videos. There are 250, I think. So feel free to watch them if you don't like that. So let's get started, and first off, let's turn on some lights. Yeah, I got some backlights. It's just warm white LED strips which I put out there because I think the last videos were all a bit bad in the lighting department in the background. So I hope this helps. This makes it a bit more comfortable to look at. Status update. Okay. It's been a while. I did the last unscripted Q&A video in January. I want to do those as every half year. Now it is August for Patreon supporters, and for those who are not Patreon supporters, I think the video will come out actually in September or the end of August. I'm not completely sure right now because I will be going on vacation next week. So yeah, it's not half a year. That's what I want to say. It's been a while. I've been stuck in video productions, which I wanted to get out before my vacation. So I decided to put this Q&A video a bit behind, but I will answer all your questions, all Patreon questions. I said that on my Patreon page. And I want to do this kind of duty every half year because I think it's important to talk with viewers in that way, because there are always so many good ideas which come up, which end up in the comment section, and I actually start working on them and they turn into great projects. So I definitely want to continue this kind of videos every half year. Next thing, the last status update thing, then I will continue with the questions, is that I'm now doing a new video schedule. You might have already noticed that for half a year now. Before it was I do a video every week. Now it is 3 videos in 3 weeks, and then I have a 1 week break. In that break I do not go on vacation. It's a break where I can do my financial stuff, my taxes, and I also can do a lot of pre-production for the new videos. And that is why most videos have been a bit longer. I try to keep it around 10 minutes, 9 to 12 at maximum, because I think more than 12, that's really the point where when you got technical videos, lots of people will lose interest. Of course, not all. I know that there are a lot of viewers of my channel which would enjoy half-hour videos. I don't know, but for the most viewers, I think 10 minutes is a good time for a video. Then, due to the new schedule, there's more information, I think, in the videos, and I put a bit more effort. It's not like I didn't treat my old videos without effort, with care. No, but now I got a bit more time on my hand. I can be a bit more relaxed and do the 3 videos in 3 weeks. Okay, I hope you're happy with the schedule as well. I know a 1 week break isn't the best thing if you just want to see new videos from a specific creator, but I think 3 videos and 1 break week is not that bad, and I hope you can take it. Okay, let's continue with the Patreon questions. And as always, I already mentioned it. If you got more questions or want to talk about specific things, go in the comment section and leave your question, your thoughts, all that good stuff there. Okay, let's get started with the Patreon questions. So here is the Patreon post, next Q&A video. I posted it on July 15th. It's been a while, but as you can see, I get to it. Maybe late, but I get to it. So we got 23 comments, which I all want to do today. So sit back. I hope I can do this in 15 minutes to half an hour. I said that last time and the time before that, and it always ended up like 15 minutes, but I will give it my best this time. Okay. First question from Julian D. Do you plan to make your garage IoT connected? If yes, which connection would you prefer for this use case? For the kind of connection, I think I would go with first I have to connect to establish some kind of internet connection. I think I would do that with a SIM card. I did not look into the subject at this point, but I hope there's something where I can just put in a SIM card with a data plan, and then I can connect to the internet and then use something like the MQTT protocol, I think it is called. Again, this kind of thing, this IoT stuff is not really my cup of tea, I would say. So I will have to look into that when I want to do it. But yes, it would definitely be interesting. Sorry. What I thought about already is maybe implementing some kind of camera, maybe with a face recognition system. I already looked into that a bit more, and I think there are models available on the market which would be suitable for this kind of application. So connecting that with IoT, having an alarm which goes off, then takes a picture, or maybe have a sneak mode where there's not an alarm, just take a picture and upload it and then do a silent alarm. There's a lot of things that can be done with this camera stuff and IoT stuff. It is on my to-do list. I don't know when I get to it. I have lots of other stuff, but someday I think it will happen. Okay, next question from Benjamin. How to build the cheapest mesh network for wireless speakers, all playing the same song from one source? What would be the best mid-range transmission signal? This is the kind of stuff I have absolutely no idea about. So I will ignore that question for now because, sorry, I'm not the guy who can do such a thing without looking it up on the internet. No comment on that. The next part of this question is, what's the best PCB design software? EasyEDA, Altium, Eagle. I worked with Eagle and of course EasyEDA. They are part of JLC PCB. And in my opinion, right now I would say EasyEDA is probably the best. Eagle had a pretty good interface. You could connect stuff very easily and it was all pretty comfortable to work with. But what I really like about EasyEDA is just the online components server. Like you can, if there is not a component in their list, a 555 timer, then you can just go to their component library and search for it, and probably someone else already designed the parts for the schematic and also for the PCB. So that saves you a lot of time. Of course, you have to look at the part, how he did it. Maybe he did a mistake. That's something you have to be aware of. But other than that, this online component library is the kind of thing which really makes EasyEDA for me the best PCB design software. When it comes to beginners projects, like I don't do all that super complicated stuff with 4 layers or something like that, so I'm not familiar with that. And also what's good about EasyEDA, a quick side note, is the PCB ordering process. You just click one button, it's done, you ordered it for $2 from JLC PCB. So in that regard, it's quick to do, fast, so for prototypes pretty perfect. For commercial products, of course, maybe not the best solution, but then again, most of my viewers don't want to make professional products, so for those kinds of things, it's perfect. Will there be other videos about your Simson or your garage? Definitely. About the Simson, I'm not sure. I saw a comment about having a variable ignition point, maybe something like that would be interesting, combining mechanical stuff with electronics. But other than that, I already did a video in the past which was about the lighting system of the Simson to improve it. Other than that, not sure yet. And my garage, of course. There's so much to do. What I've been thinking about lately is a power, how is it called? That thing that Tesla made popular, the power wall, exactly. It's like just a big lithium ion battery, and it can be charged with solar energy, and that's what I would love to remake for my garage. It's on my to-do list for quite a while now. I think I will get to it soon, but then again, absolutely no promises what I say here, because in the last video I said I would do the quadcopter for the 1 million subscribers special. It's sitting right over there. I still haven't finished it, but I think I checked the questions beforehand, and I think there was something about the quadcopter, so I will get to that. But yes, there will be more Simson and garage videos. Love your videos, keep up the good work. Thank you very much. Okay, next question from Philip Brescher. Are you still etching your own PCBs, or was it a one-time thing? I think it is a lot of fun to do. I recently learned to do it with the photoresist method, which gives, in my opinion, way cleaner results than the direct ink method. Maybe a remastered version of the old video. I'm not etching my own PCBs anymore. It was not a one-time thing. I did it a couple more times to make PCBs, but like I said before with the easy EDA question, you can get PCBs so cheap nowadays, professionally made without any errors, and you don't have to make a huge mess and waste time. Of course, when it comes to appreciating the process of creating a PCB, this is the way to go. Like, do it at least one time in your life. And I think for this kind of experience you can do it, but professionally I think it doesn't make a lot of sense. When I do a quick dirty prototype, I do it on a perf board and solder all the stuff together. That's the way to go for me. And the photoresist methods, I'm familiar with that. Again, PCBs, when I have a more complicated design, PCBs are so easy to make. I would go that route and not the make your own PCB way. Next question from Payman. Maybe create a DIY standing desk out of your ordinary desk and make it smart, like tracking the height and ballast, weight on it, and send it to an app on a phone or so. Interesting. Yeah. A standing desk. The question is, where do I put the standing desk in my workshop here, in my workroom? There's no space for another desk. That's probably the biggest problem with this kind of idea. But a tracking system, maybe there is something else I can build with a standing desk, not a standing desk, but with a tracking system like that. I think that would be quite interesting. I will see what I can do. I put it on my to-do list. SMD asks lots of questions. Any giveaways? There have been quite a few giveaways in the past. Nowadays, it's a bit more complicated because Patreon does not directly support giveaways, so I cannot do it directly on their site. And the next thing is, there hasn't been many manufacturers who want to do giveaways actually on my channel right now. I did a lot of giveaways with Siglance, but they kind of lost interest. The Keysight giveaways, it's not scope month, so I don't have scopes to give away, but I hope next year definitely scope month. Once again, I will be giving, not definitely, because Keysight is, we didn't agree on that, but I hope Keysight will contact me once again so I can promote their scope month once again, and I hope I will get some oscilloscopes to give away. There's no guarantee, sorry about that. But I think it is a possibility that can happen. But other than that, if there are manufacturers who are willing to give me products to give away without giving me any creative constraints, like you have to do this and that, and yes, then we can give you products to give away. No, that's not how my videos work. You might know that. I want to have all the creative freedom in my videos. I want to say what I want to say. And if manufacturers are okay with that and give me products as well to give away, then of course there will be giveaways. But right now, it's just a bad time for that, I think. Maybe in 2 months there will be lots of giveaways. I'm not sure. Maybe. Okay. Next question. How do these big companies find you with their cool stuff? I think you mean how companies get in contact with me so that they can send me their stuff to make videos about or something along those lines. They find me because I have like 1 million subscribers, and if you search for electronics on YouTube, I think you can find me pretty quickly. And of course, nowadays, I think it is interesting for companies to cooperate with web video producers like me, because I have quite a lot of viewers who are interested in electronics, and they have awesome electronics products. I hope so. If not, I will not put them in videos, but I think it's a good match. You got good products, electronics products, you got electronic viewers. Let's combine that. I think that works out, and that is how they find me. Okay, any merch? Selling a t-shirt is stupidly simple. I have merch for quite a while. I'm actually wearing it. Here you can see it's my, from this side, Stay Creative design. I really like it. I think you can find the merch really easily. It is under every YouTube video. I think they integrated it, and if not, you can find it on my channel. There is this little thingy in the top right corner next to the GreatScott picture, and there are a couple of links, and there's a link to Teespring, and there you can get my merch. Okay, a motorized desk would interest me too, as payment requested. Something on the cheap side. Yeah, like I already said, I put it on my to-do list. I'm not sure, but the tracking thing is kind of interesting. Definitely. Electric bike projects, something illegally powerful, like a 1 kilowatt front and rear motor set. Yeah, illegally. I'm not that comfortable with illegal stuff. In the end, yeah, on a closed road, of course, I can use it on a private property, but I will see. I actually thought about a new small video series, which I would call Monster Builds. Just taking a concept, a project, and just doing it massively, overpowering it. I think that would be a cool video series idea, but then again, that takes a lot of time, a lot of pre-production time, and I'm currently working on another series which I want to start with the books here in the background. You can see them a bit, which I am planning for 3 or 4 months now and still didn't start. So I will see what I can do with this concept. But first off, I have to see how well this old versus new concept works out. And if you're confused right now, I talked about that in my last Q&A video. Okay, next question from Kau Moramonyen. Sorry if I got that name wrong. Have you ever thought of a more in-depth project, like for example a proper open source ESC with a PCB, or you feel like these in-depth projects will take too much time? I actually thought about something like that. I thought about an open ESC, open source ESC for quite a while. But the problem is it is not the kind of stuff that the YouTube algorithm, YouTube supports, because you have to keep getting content out as fast, as often as possible to get so that subscribers see your stuff. Otherwise they will get burned out and YouTube says, oh no, don't send notifications for that. But I think you're all pretty familiar with that. And big projects like that are just not possible to do in a time span which makes sense for me, for a web video producer. Of course, from the engineering side, from me, it would make a lot of sense. I would love to do such in-depth things, but that just requires too much time. And as a YouTuber, it's not possible. It doesn't make sense. I stick to the small stuff. I do the general information. Of course, I go a bit in depth in those videos as well, but overall I have to keep it a bit simpler, entertaining, because that's what viewers want, what the most of the viewers want. And it works out. It worked out until now pretty well, I would say. I think I do a pretty good mix of general information and more in-depth information to keep it all a bit interesting. I hope I didn't say too much about this. A simple, yes, I thought about it and it doesn't make sense to me would have been enough, but I hope you're happy with that answer. Okay, the Jukebox Man asks, do you think it would be interesting to do a video with some older technology, maybe a small tube amplifier? Yes, of course it would be interesting. Like I already said, I want to start the old versus new series with those books. A tube amplifier, I thought about it. Lots of people already suggested that. It is on my to-do list. I will get to it, I promise, one day. Yeah, there's not much more to say about that, sorry. Lorenzo Bravi, what are good practices to create PCBs for JLC PCB or other Chinese manufacturers? Good practices, I think the general good practices when it comes to PCB design. Make sure you got enough space, make sure all the components are connected to one another. Make sure the ground plane is continuous, there's no loops which are created. Do the, I think it is called DRC, design rule check, DRC check, at the end when you want to create a PCB. EasyEDA always asks for that, like, do you want to do this check or do you want to export the Gerber files right now? And you just say, yes, I want to do this check because it makes sense. The EasyEDA software will tell you, okay, those components are not connected and there might be a problem. Of course, there are not those in-depth problems, like I said, with the ground plane. If there is a mistake with a big loop, which will act as an antenna with your current, then you got some electromagnetic problems. That's not something EasyEDA will tell you because that's something you have to find out on your own. But for the most common mistakes or problems, this DRC feature check will solve most of your problems. So that's my advice on that. Do the DRC check. If that works, you're fine. Next question from The Final Degree. Not exactly a Q&A question, but would you consider doing a DIY or buy for Bluetooth audio? A DIY for Bluetooth audio, like doing a Bluetooth transmitter from scratch? I don't think so, no. Even with some pre-made parts, I don't think there's much appeal for me. So sadly, no, I'm sorry. Next question from Andrew Fanstad. Bypass capacitors on ICs, yes or no? What type and value do you like to use? Good question. I'm thinking of a video I did in the past, not too long ago, I think in March, April, with Wirt Elektronik. You may remember the video. It is called, oh god, what is it called? What capacitor type to use? How to choose the right capacitor type, yeah. And that would be a question which could be easily answered with this video. So definitely watch that. Other than that, yes, of course, decoupling capacitors. If you got some low power stuff which does not create lots of oscillations, you might be fine without it, most of the time actually. But if you got some demanding ICs, some difficult circuit designs, definitely put a bypass capacitor next to it because it doesn't hurt, it's not that much effort. And when it comes to values, I would recommend a small SMD 100 nanofarad one, a small SMD ceramic one, 100 nanofarads, and maybe next to it a bigger electrolytic one like 10 microfarads. And that should definitely cover those current spikes. But definitely watch the video I just mentioned to understand it a bit better what I just suggested. Okay, next question from Clement Hathaway. Do you watch Andreas Speis? Isn't it called Spies or? Andreas Speis videos? He's a Swiss guy that really goes in depth into many different microcontroller projects. and I think it would be amazing if you two maybe did a collaboration. Yes, I know him. He actually just debugged my walkie-talkie project. It was a small mistake I made with a resistor value, which he changed, and this way the amplifier was not in overdrive mode, I would say it in English, and this way the audio did not clip, and this way the walkie-talkie actually got some decent audio quality. So yes, I'm familiar with this stuff. I watched some older videos, so it's pretty interesting. I like his videos. And a collaboration, difficult question, because collaborations, you always need much more time to actually come up with a good project which you can do together, how you split it up and all that stuff. I think it takes a lot of effort, and I'm not sure if I got the time to put in that effort, because I have so much to do with my own stuff. But then again, if Andreas has a good idea, he can of course contact me. Maybe we can talk about a collaboration. And Andreas is not the first one I offered this. I already talked with Bitlooney about such a collaboration, which he would be interested in, and I would of course be interested. But then again, you have to find a project you can share. One does the programming, the other one the electronics. It's hard to do. It's a lot of effort, which is basically what I want to say. It's a lot of effort. I'm not sure when I get to do it, and if. Okay, let's move on. Okay, next question from Rafael Makta. I converted 12 volts nickel cadmium Bosch drill to 3S lithium ion 12.6 volts BMS with balancing and overcharge over discharge protection inside the battery pack. But I still did not figure how or if it is safe to use the original charger. It has only two connectors, plus minus, but label says 7.4 volts to 14.4 volts. Would it be sufficient to just add the LM317 to stabilize the voltage to 12.6 volts? Maybe a video for drill battery conversions from nickel cadmium to lithium ion would be also interesting for others. So the last thing first, such a video would be interesting. I actually thought about it some time ago. It is on my to-do list. Maybe, not maybe, I will get to it someday, because I got some nickel cadmium battery packs which would love to have an upgrade to lithium ion. So someday. And the thing about the LM317, to 12.6 volts, 4.2 volts multiplied by 3, 8.4, yeah, 12.6 volts would make sense. I think that would work, but a really crude way, of course. Just connecting the connector with this big input, with the big voltage range, not my recommendation. I would not try that, because lithium ion is kind of dangerous to work with if you charge it incorrectly. But the LM317, yeah, set it to 12.6 volts. I think it has an internal current limit of 1 amp or 1.5 amps. So it would limit itself and then enter firstly the constant current mode. When it is 1 amp, 1.5 amp, your lithium ion battery should probably be able to handle that, but look in the datasheet. And after that, it would enter the constant voltage mode with 12.6 volts. So as a crude way, that would work. But of course, put a heatsink on and let me know if that worked out. But then again, no guarantee from my side, but theoretically it should work. Next question from PretS. Is Arduino really the best to get started with hobby electronics, or should someone, in your opinion, take perhaps a different route? I don't think Arduino is the best way to get started with electronics. I think I had a similar question in a previous Q&A video. I started with operational amplifiers, so I did analog and electronics first with transistors, op-amps, resistors, capacitors, inductors, all that good stuff, all the circuits you can create with that. And then after I understood the basics of electronics, how to charge up a capacitor, how the inductor works with the current and all that stuff. After that, I moved on to the Arduino. So I think I would recommend people going the analog route first and then going digital, because with the analog way you just learn the fundamentals of electronics, like how current and voltage behaves with different components and how all those components interact with one another. And then you can go to something like digital and interface those components with digital inputs and outputs and PWM and all that stuff. So my recommendation, firstly analog, then digital. Okay, next question from PretS as well. As a maker, I see you making many more things outside of electronics. How are you finding this aspect of making? What areas do you find difficult? Good question. I'm of course a bit familiar with electronics. I do not know everything because electronics is such a big subject. There's so much to it. I can't even say how much percentage of electronics I'm familiar with. But when it comes to different aspects, I would say maybe 3D printing or mechanical work, woodwork, metalwork, all that stuff. I find it interesting. Of course, I do a lot of mistakes and lots of viewers always say that, are you doing that wrong and that wrong? But I don't mind that much because I'm always learning, and next time I'm applying those new information, those new skills to improve in this regard. So for me, it's very interesting. Electronics is still the best, but other maker stuff, like I said, 3D printing, woodworking, metalworking, is, I would say electronics is here and the other stuff is up there. Of course, there are subjects which I do not like that much, like maybe CNC machining is not really the stuff I'm into that much. That's why I don't do it that often. But other than that, the other areas, very interesting. And what do I find difficult? What areas do you find difficult? Pretty easily said, it's welding, I think. I tried it one time. It is probably the most popular video I got, where I use a big transformer to create a crude stick welder. It didn't work out, but the welding is very interesting. That's definitely an area, a maker area subject, which I want to explore more later. But for me right now, it is very difficult to understand what's going on with welding, how you have to do that. I think taking a course would be quite interesting for me, and maybe it would benefit the channel. So all in all, welding is for me right now the most difficult subject or area. But I think I will conquer that someday when I got more time on my hand. And maybe I will do another welder video where I do a DIY one, self-made one, and then I have no excuse not learning to weld. Okay, next question from Laverne. What would you recommend for powering a high current 12 volt DC motor? I've tried an IR2184 MOSFET driver in a half bridge configuration, but that doesn't seem to be able to supply enough current. The motor I'm trying to control draws up to about 4 amps. A DC motor with 4 amps, the IR2184 is already a good starting point with those MOSFET drivers. What I would do is simply replace those with MOSFETs. They should easily take 15 to 30 amps. And with the MOSFET drivers, you can easily drive them either in a half bridge or a full bridge configuration. I'm not sure if the IR2184 got bootstrapping included, but if it does, get 2 N-channel MOSFETs like the IRLZ44N or the IRFZ44N, something like that. And if it got no bootstrapping, use a P-channel and an N-channel MOSFET, and you should be ready to go. I would recommend a full bridge, but a half bridge should also work out, I think. Or does it? I would go with the full bridge. Okay, next question from Hannes Gronbach. What are the settings you running your Prusa printer, and what would you recommend as filaments and settings for the printer? These settings are just the standard settings. I'm not that much into 3D printing. The only change I do is with the G-code, with the Octoprint software to get those really beautiful time lapses, which I showed how to make in a previous video. Other than that, standard settings. The filament which I would recommend, because I've been using quite a bit of filament over the years, is definitely the Prusament. The filament directly from Prusa. It works really well, quality is awesome. I've never had any problems with this kind of filaments. And once again, these settings, the standard ones which you get with the Prusa software. Next question from Michael Reeds. Has the project ever made you want to give up on it? If so, what was it and why? That's simple. The quadcopter project, which I'm currently not working on because it was so terrible to work on. I started, and at the beginning it worked out fine, but then I got components which did not work with other components, and then the interface did not work. There was no data communication, and then I fixed that. Then there was another problem. Then I changed components. Then I changed the software, and it's just a big mess. And I'm really not happy with this project. How is it go? How it started? It was okay, but right now it's just there are so many problems with it. I'm not sure when I will finish it. I hope someday, but right now I'm really not interested in continue working on it. I'm doing other projects which are also interesting. Of course, everyone always asks about the quadcopter project. What I can recommend, watch Electro Noobs. He does quadcopter projects a lot of, and those always work out. For me, I will have to see when I get it done, but please stop asking for it. I know it is always behind me when I release a video, when I'm working on videos, but yeah. That's the kind of project that wants me to give up. Okay, next question from Fabio Casperes. Why in some cases do you use MOSFET drivers and in other cases don't? Simple electronic load versus Arduino electronic load, for example. What are the main reasons, advantages and trade-offs here? Thanks. It always depends on what kind of circuit you're working on. If you got a non-demanding MOSFET project with a slow frequency and you don't really care how fast it turns on and how much power the MOSFET wastes through this turn on, because it wastes power during turning on and turning off in the different regions of the MOSFETs, then you can of course not use a MOSFET driver, because in this case you just don't care, it's not that important. But if you got a more demanding circuit which uses a very high frequency and you really care about those power losses, you want the MOSFET to turn on and off as fast as possible with as little power loss as possible, then of course I would use a MOSFET driver. It is just the best way to push a lot of current in a small time into the MOSFET gate and turn it on or off. And other components like the Arduino, if you directly connect it to a MOSFET gate, it is just not capable of handling that big current draw from the MOSFET gate, and thus the MOSFET will take a while to turn on and off. Of course, in higher frequency areas, the Arduino isn't even capable of supplying that much current in that small of time. If you're using maybe a duty cycle of 50% at, I don't know, 100 kilohertz, not sure right now, I'm just guessing, then there will be problems. But the MOSFET driver is pretty much always the safe way that you know, okay, my MOSFET will definitely turn on and off the best way possible. Of course, you have to decouple the MOSFET driver so that it can supply this big current draw from your power supply. That it can supply the big current draw from the MOSFETs. The power supply charges up the capacitors. And yeah, so the trade-offs are, if you use it, you can be certain that it will work very well, much better than without it. Of course, you got a bit more costs, you got more effort, you need more time to implement such a MOSFET driver, but then again, most of the time it is worth it. And if you got really simple circuits, a 555 timer maybe, which switches something on and off at 500 Hertz, it also works without the driver, but the driver is always the best way, which takes a bit more time. Okay. Next question from Mauro Sobreira. What vintage equipment would you recommend nowadays? Anyone on your list? Have you thought on giving a modern interface to old equipment like precision power supplies, electrometers or function generators? These are the ones I have at my lab. At best, that at best use GPIB. I don't have vintage equipment anymore. I once got an old oscilloscope, which was pretty fun to work with. But really, what vintage equipment would you recommend? I'm not that familiar with vintage equipment, so I cannot recommend anything, sorry. Anything on your list? No. Have you ever thought on giving a modern interface to old equipment? Like I said, I don't have old equipment, so sorry, no. Really sorry. I think old equipment, of course, it can be very interesting. I think I saw some really old but precision stuff on Marco Rapp's channel, which was really interesting, but I really not got the opportunity to get some of such old equipment. So sorry, but I can't help you with that. Next question from Milos Condict. When can I expect a video about speed control of AC motors, asynchronous and synchronous ones? Good question. I recently did a soft starter video, which was way more popular than I initially thought. And there I teased at the end that such soft starters are also very important for motors. And maybe I can do a basic video about AC motors, synchronous and asynchronous one, because I have a couple laying around. And then I can see how I can take this topic further and maybe create the soft starter, the motor soft starter, and this way you will be happy and everyone else will also be happy because they know a lot more stuff about motors. Okay, moving on. Next question from whatever this guy is. What do you do after you have made your projects? Are they kept in storage, thrown away, or do you actively use them? Of course, there are projects which I actively use, for example, the ambient lighting projects, but then again, most of my projects are not that usable, and I don't throw away projects. I put way too much time, way too much effort into those things. I would never throw them away. I store them in drawers which are right behind this camera, and they still work perfectly fine if I power them up. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Almost the last question from Paulo dos Santos. A while ago you shown some old electronics books. Yes, there they are. Would you be interested in starting some videos about circuit design, oscillators, frequency multipliers, etc.? As you said, oscillators, I did a basics video about oscillators, so those are a couple of such circuits. Frequency multipliers, I did not have a chance that such a circuit can be used for an interesting project, but I will definitely talk about circuit design. I think I do it quite often actually. So if there's a project in which I can implement such an interesting circuit, then I will definitely do it. But just standalone videos, which I just call frequency multipliers, I think not my cup of tea. But like I said, if I can implement them in projects, in other videos, then of course. But standalone, not sure. Okay, last question from Danny Stanley. Are you going to do a collab with Andreas Speis? Okay, here it says Speis, so his name apparently is really Speis. I already talked about that in the previous question. Not sure if it is possible, if there is time someday. Definitely, but there's just a small chance, I would say. Okay, and with that being said, we are pretty much done with the 23 comments. I hope it was interesting. I hope I didn't take too long. I'm not sure how long this video will be. Hopefully we're not at the hour mark. But anyway, I hope you learned something, some things about the channel, about electronics. And with that being said, I will continue what I've been doing for the past almost 6 years. In October, my channel will be 6 years old. And I hope you're looking forward to my new videos. And yeah, thanks for watching. As always, don't forget to like, share, subscribe and hitting the notification bell, because that is very important nowadays when it comes to YouTube. As always, stay creative and I will see you next time.